Hey everyone, it's Pam Jorgensen here at Stamping in My PJs. You can find me at pjstamps.blogspot.com, and I'm an independent demonstrator here in Australia. I wanted to show you this really cute little fun fold flap card that one of my team members taught us at our team meeting this last week, and it is really cute. So I've done a couple different ones. Here's this one using the terracotta tile. Here's one using Old Olive and Early Espresso. And then this was the first one, the sample one I did just using crushed curry and pear pizzazz. So a little bit more simple, but just as cute. All right, so let's see how to make this fun card. You guys are going to love it. It is so stinking simple. Now, I am going to be using the Bloom and Grow stamp set only because I thought it coordinated really well with the Ornate Floral, the Ornate Garden Specialty Designer Series paper. So I am focusing a lot today on the Ornate Garden Suite, which was focused in all of these Designer Series paper that I had here. So there's one pattern. This gilded gold pattern is in there as well, which I love. And this cute little Designer Series paper right there. So let's see what I'm going to use today. So we are going to use one piece of terracotta tile cardstock, cut at 5 3/4 by 8 1/4 inches. Now this is a half of an A4 sheet of cardstock for my metric friends. Then we have 2 7/8 by 8 1/4 inch strip. And I have scored that in half at 4 1/8. So see that? So we have that. Then we have a piece for our insert, which is 4 inches by 5 1/2. And if you miss these measurements, don't stress. I will make sure that they are in both on my blog and in the video. And this is 3 7/8 by 5 1/2. And you can see, I'm going to put it really close to the camera. Can you see that I have embossed that with the new Ornate Floral Embossing Folder? Oh my gosh, that has become my favorite. So that's what it looks like on the deboss side, and then that's the emboss side, and it is so sweet and so cute. Just love it. All right, I will also be using for the card that I'm making right now. So this strip is 1 1/2 inches by 2 1/2 inches. And then I have two pieces. So one is a piece of Whisper White and one is a piece of your Designer Series paper. They are both cut at 2 5/8 of an inch by 3 7/8 of an inch. And last but not least, I have two little strips. Now you may find that you don't need these. These are just 1/4 of an inch thick, but you may not need those depending on how you make your card. Now the other thing that I have used today, just so you know where I have pulled everything, so I have cut out one of these frames. Look at that in mint macaron. This is really cute. So I'm using the Ornate Layers dies, and that's what this particular die cuts out. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm using one of those. And then I have also grabbed these two dies. Can you see those two? Now, those two dies, whoops, gotta come back into the camera. I have used to cut out two Early Espresso centers. Now, these are actually out of the Poppy Moments dies, but I love them and they're perfect for what we're going to use today. Then I will also be using the Daisy Punch and the Sprig Punch, which are both carrying over into the next annual catalog, just so you know that. And let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold my cardstock in half and use my bone folder to burnish that edge. And the next thing that I'm going to take is I'm going to take that little strip of cardstock, and remember you scored it. Now I'm going to burnish that in half one way and open that up and burnish it again going the opposite way. What that does is it's going to make sure that that stays nice and flat on our card front because we've burnished it going both ways. Okay, easy peasy. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add, so this is our embossed piece, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere that just to the front of my card. And one of the things that I think is really, really important when you emboss a piece of cardstock is that you go ahead and use some of your liquid glue. So here I'm using just my multi-purpose, my multi-purpose glue. Because your embossed piece is now got a pattern in it, it does not like to adhere things if you just use your snail adhesive. So make sure that you use some glue to put that down onto your card front. Just like that. There we go. Nice and flat. So let's just set this aside. Oh, actually, let's just set this one aside for a minute because I want to work on this little half a sheet. Now I'm going to grab some of the terracotta tile ribbon because I really, really, really like it. And I'm going to bring in that piece of designer series paper. And I'm going to bring in this little label that I have made. And the reason that I'm doing that is I need to see how that is going to fit on my card front. Now you could have your card design with your label coming off the right side, or you could have it with your label coming off the left side. So let's see what I want. I think I'm going to go on the right. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, now that I've determined I'm going to come with my label going that way, is I'm going to grab some of my ribbon. Now I just like to make like a, what do you want to call it, like a squiggle. So I first hold my ribbon on my paper. I don't even cut it off the spool. And I just come back, and I just come back, something like that. So now I'll just cut it off because I know about how long I want it. And that way I don't waste any of my pretty ribbon. And I'm just going to fiddle that. So all I'm doing, if you were making a scribble on your paper, that's basically what I'm doing with this piece of ribbon. Okay. Just like that. Now I love to use a stapler. You see me using that all the time. And I'm just going to staple that down onto that piece of designer series paper. All right, now let's give that a little bit of a haircut. And there we go. And now I am just going to adhere that down onto my piece. I want to see which way I want. Yeah, okay. So with the card opening, or the little flap opening like a card, let me get that pulled out a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to use some liquid glue and put that down onto that little strip. I love my liquid glue. I don't know about you guys, but it's fast, it's easy. If you're making a lot of cards, it's really economical. All right, so I'm going to come back to my card front, and I'm going to look at where I want this piece to come out again, remember? So that's going to determine how far I put that little flap. All right, so I figured out that I need to put this little flap that I've made almost to the left, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down with some liquid glue while we're sitting here and let that dry for a minute before we start messing around with it. So I'm just going to layer that down onto my card. And before it's totally dry, I'm just going to peek on the inside and make sure that that piece is nice and level, and I'll just give that a push with my hand. Okay, and I'm going to set that aside to dry for a minute. And I might just go ahead and glue this little label down. So you can see right here that I don't want any adhesive going past about a ½ inch. Okay, so you could even draw a line with your bone folder like I did, and I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm just going to put a little bit of my liquid glue right there. Not a whole lot, because I do not want it to come out, those little filigree edges, and I'm just going to set that onto my card. There we go. So let's set that aside to dry for a second. And you can see it looks kind of ugly. I always say never look at the back of my card because it might not be very pretty, but that doesn't matter because we're gonna glue it all together and nobody can pull it apart anyway. Okay, so let's do some stamping. I'm going to grab my early espresso pad. And in this stamp set, I'm going to be using this little hello stamp. I'm going to be using the Let's Celebrate You and thank you from the bottom of my heart. So the first thing that I'm going to stamp is the hello. So let's add that. I'm just going to ink that up and stamp that right down into the middle of my Whisper White piece. Oh, look at that. I got an edge. Do you guys get edges? Sometimes I get edges if I'm not careful enough. All right, so there we go. We have that cute little hello. I'm not doing anything very difficult, okay? Because I like cards that are easy and simple and fast to duplicate. So now I'm going to stamp up. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I have ink all over this. Let's see if I can get this straight. Oh, I always have to hold my breath. Oops, I might do that again on the back. Just because it's hard to see with the camera in the way. Oh, perfect. Okay, so we have our thank you from the bottom of my heart. And while we're stamping sentiments, I'm gonna go ahead and add the sentiment on the inside, Let's Celebrate You. So we'll just ink that up with the early espresso ink again. And let's see if I can get that nice and centered. Beautiful. My goodness, you guys are bringing me luck today. Okay, so for that, so remember I had those little 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch strips of designer series paper. So I'm just going to bring that back over here. I am just going to put some snail on this one just because it's easier. And I am going to stick that on the bottom of my insert. Let's see if that's straight. Yep. There we go. And I'll give that a little bit of a haircut. And get that out of the way. Whoops. Never mind, he's gone. Okay, and while we have that, I'm just going to stick that in inside my card. I just like to get everything out of the way when I stamp so that the easy stuff is done and I don't have to worry about it getting into my road or I forget to put it into my card. Look at that. That is so cute. That looks so nice on that terracotta tile piece. There we go. Okay, so going back to our little hello. So you could add that second strip of designer series paper if you wanted. I might do that actually because I think that looks really, really cute. Or yeah, we're gonna add that. I'm just going on the fly here. Let's just get some snail on there. And we'll just tape that down. I really like to leave that little bit of a white on the bottom. It just makes it have a nice little border. Okay. Now, do I want another one on the top? No, because I think we're going to stamp. Okay, so I've also grabbed, let me grab this little brown flower stamp. And I am just going to stamp one of those up close. Look at that. How cute is that? Love it. Alrighty, so now I have stamped that with our early espresso, our classic ink pads. Now, normally what I tell you when you stamp with classic ink is that you shouldn't use your blends, but we are going to. But what you have to be careful of is that you do not stay too long on that inked area because your blends will cause that to run. So I am using your Calypso Light, Calypso Coral Light, your Old Olive Light, and your Mango Melody Light. Okay, so let's just grab, now I'm grabbing the pointed end. I love the fact that Stampin' Up! Tells us that there's a brush in there or the pointed end, like the chisel tip. And I am just going to touch those areas with the Old Olive, and I'm going to come in now with the brush of the light Calypso Coral, and I am just going to add a little bit of color, nothing too serious, just a little bit of color. And the same thing with Mango Melody. I'm going to use that brush end as well. I'm leaving a little bit of white just because it makes it look highlighted. And that's all I'm going to worry about, just a little bit of color. All right, so let's stick that inside the little flap on our card. So that says, whoa, come back, come back. That says hello now. Look, that is gonna be the cutest card ever. All right, there we go. All right, so let's finish decorating the front of our card. So remember I had this strip. Now what I have found is that with this particular die, we know that if your strip is about 1 1/8 inches wide and 2.5 inches long, it will fit inside of our, it'll fit really nice in our layer. So I'm just gonna come in and cut a little bit off. I'm gonna cut this side. And then I'm gonna start trimming down the ends into, oh, actually I got it almost perfect. Let's see, let's take a little bit more off this side. There we go. And I know now that that particular piece is going to layer on that just perfectly. So let's grab some dimensionals. And I'm going to pop this one up. And remember, you don't ever look at the back because the back is going to be ugly because I've stamped that twice. I'm gonna come in with my pick tool and pick off those backs on those dimensionals. That is the best little trick I've ever learned. There we go, look at that. How cute is that gonna be? All right, so remember I said I was using the daisy punch, and I've gone ahead and punched out 2 daisies already out of our petal pink. And I've gone ahead and cut out 2 of those early espresso centers. Now one looks like a germ and one looks like a little creepy crawly. And I am just going to put a little bit of liquid glue down in the middle of one daisy and pop down the first circle. Now, because this doesn't like to, it does take a little bit of time to dry. You do have to give yourself a moment. So I'm just gonna pop that second little die cut down on top of the first. And then using a dimensional, I'm going to pop that down into that second punched out daisy. And I like to alternate those petals, see that? Perfect. Now because that glue is wet, I have done one earlier, see that? So that I can have time to flick up those cute little stamens in that flower, just to give it a little bit of texture. And I'll hold that up to the camera. I'm all about finding dimension on your project. So if your customers, or if you like to give people things to look at when they look at your card, you want to just add little bits of dimension. So here I'm just fluffing a little bit. I like to fluff. Do you guys? Love fluffing. Okay. Now, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to figure out where I want that daisy to go. That is going to be so cute. Now, the one thing that I have to decide is what color sprigs I want. Now, I have punched out some gold ones. So let's see what those look like. Not sure that I like gold. And I've also punched out some of the, I think we're going to use the early espresso. Okay, so here we go. So where am I going to put them? I like to follow the layout of the ribbon. So I'm probably going to do something like that. Yep, okay, perfect. So now paper and ribbon do not really like each other. They're not very good friends. So I'm going to first add a little bit of liquid glue just to hold that element in place. And now I'm going to come back and see. I might move that one a little bit. Actually, we might, no, I think we'll keep that one there. Just bring it in a little bit closer. And that's the beauty of glue, is that you can actually move things until you're happy with it. And then, perfect. So remember that dimensionals do not like glue either. I mean ribbon. So I'm gonna look at putting a dimensional mostly on the paper, and I'll peel that back off while I'm there. And I'm just going to come on the other side and add one in there, because that's where my daisy's going to go. And I'll peel that off, and you will notice that I have some glue still under there, so that is exactly what I want, so that those dimensionals do not come off the front of my card. So let's just give our daisy a little bit of texture. You could do this with a bone folder if you wanted. I just use my fingers just for now. There we go. Pop that on like that. Like that. And to finish it, we're going to use some of these beautiful gilded gems. And I'm going to use the big one, and I'm going to set it right down, whoops, in the middle of that daisy. Now I might add, let's add another one over here. Whoops, these are so pretty. Where should we put it? Actually, we might go like this. We might add two. Add two. Look at that. What do you guys think? Do you like that? Okay. So here's our completed card. Anyone would love to get this fun card to celebrate them. So I hope you've liked my project. I hope that you pop over to my blog to find all the measurements, and that you like and follow my YouTube channel so that you get notices of whenever I post a live video. Thanks, you guys, and have a wonderful day.